Hello, everybody. Welcome to UK Gaming Network. Welcome to the Roundup podcast for July, where you'll be able to hear this on the first Monday of every month, where we're going to look back at all the games that we played. I'm Zoidberg, and joining me for this month's episode, we have UKGN Teru.
Hello.
UKGN Pad is not joining us for this one. He is currently on a family holiday. I remember those days, going summer holidays with a young child. You can't really take time out to sit and talk about video games on a podcast. So hopefully he will be back next month. In the month of July, there actually turned out to be quite a lot more games than we were anticipating. Of the games that we wanted for this month, there was Parkitect Deluxe Edition, Zenless Zone Zero, Parasol Stars Remaster, Flock, Hot Lap Racing, Let's School, which finally came out of early access, Magical Delicacy, Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn, Nobody Wants to Die, Dungeons of Hinterberg, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, Skim, College Football 25, Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess, Conscript, Super Woden GP II, Abathor, A Ranger, Earth Defense Force 6, and last but not least, Hidden Cats in Rome. So I know Pad will be pleased that we included that last one. So what games have you been playing this month, Terry? What do you want to talk about first? Shall we start with Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess, seeing as that one's probably fresh in your mind?
Considering I was playing it around about 10 minutes ago, yes, it would be. So
this is the I suppose real-time strategy game from Konami, which I saw somebody describe as a PS2 game in the best possible sense. It's a game out of time. Yes,
that's the best way to describe it. Real-time strategy to a certain degree. It's also part tower defense. Then you've also got a bit of your management, very minor. It's all these minor features, but they've managed to put them together brilliantly, and the levels are just the right length to keep you interested. Not too long, not too short, and always make you go, oh, one more go. Like, I'll just do one more level. And it is so easy to just pick up and put down as well when you need to. And it's there are a couple of bits that I do find quite annoying, but it might be more of a case of me not being good enough to do it. Like the main character that you control who does the fighting, I don't think that's the best implementation of like a fighting mechanic. And I can't do it.
Well, yeah, the only part of the game that I've played is the opening tutorial, and I'm definitely very impressed with the game from a presentation standpoint. It very much reminded me of Okami, strangely, even though that's a completely different type of game. But of the tutorial that I played, the actual combat bit was the part that felt lacking.
Yeah, it's probably the one area that I can only criticize on, when everything else about it is so good. Like you've got all your different character classes for your little minions, so it's a bit like Pikmin to a small degree. So you can swap and change, what characters doing what. There's also a limit because certain villagers, not minions, villagers, can only do certain or can't do certain roles, because you start off with a woodcutter, then you get your archer, you get priests, shamans. One of my favourites are the riflemen, because they do have really long range. I just like having an entire row of them and going for it. But I think the refreshing thing about Path of the Goddess is it's taken old ideas and refreshed them for a modern era, which is, as you said at the start, of people describing it as a PS2 game, but in the best way possible. It's just a case of people have forgotten what our old games used to be like. And
Yeah,
then
I remember what Capcom's output was like in the PS2 and GameCube era. You'd get games like Gregory Horror Show that would just be completely off the wall and out there and experimental, and
yeah,
not all of them worked, but it was great that somebody as big as Capcom was taking these wild swings.
and thanks to it being on Game Pass, I wouldn't have probably picked this up myself if I had to pay for it, because from the bits that you see in the demo, not demo, in the trailer, I kind of went, I might enjoy it, I might not, I'm not willing to take a punt, but with it being on Game Pass, so I was just like, yeah, download it, let's give it a go, and it's it definitely is my most played game this month.
Well, there actually is a demo that you can download on the Xbox Store as well, so even if you're not a Game Pass subscriber, you can still download it and have a go.
Oh, good to know.
But it sounds like it's definitely a game that we would recommend, or certainly.
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay, so let's move on. I know from discussions that I've had with Pad what his particular game of the month would be. So rather than moving on to mine, I will talk about his, and that's Super Woden GP II, which is not a brand new release because it came out on the PC, I think back in November last year, but it's finally come out on July 24th, I think it was, on Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch. And basically, it's an overhead view from a slightly isometric angle racing game. It's fairly basic to look at, I must admit, but from a gameplay standpoint, it's probably one of the deepest and richest racing games that both Pad and myself have played in a very long time. It doesn't have any from what I can gather, it doesn't have any online play. I might be wrong on that one. I know it's got local multiplayer, but from a single player standpoint, this has got the full on Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport style career mode, where you buy your car, you can upgrade it, you can even wash it and change its oil. And you can then take that car and enter it into tournaments, and there's a huge number of tournaments that you can choose, each with certain limitations as to what type of cars they can go in. It's basically the full-on career mode that Turn 10 Studios forgot to put in last year's Forza Motorsport game, because that was the massive disappointment with that one. But there is a lot in this game. And I suppose the best thing about it, on top of all that, is the fact that it only costs a tenner. So, would you rather pay £70 for Gran Turismo 7 or Forza Motorsport, or pay a tenner for this? And you'd probably get a lot more long-term gameplay out of this one. I mean, admittedly, those two games that I've mentioned have got much better online sides to them, but from a single-player point of view, this offers so much more. So you really should look past the graphics and see the game underneath, because it's a great racing game. I think for me personally, from for an overhead racing game on the Xbox, I think this is probably not quite as good as Circuit Superstars. I think that one just pips it to the post, but this is definitely up there with it, because it's obviously made by a small independent team as well. None of the cars have their real names, and neither do any of the tracks. But to anybody who is a motoring enthusiast, they're all instantly recognisable as to which ones they're supposed to be. I mean, there's a blatant track on here that is obviously Brands Hatch. There's one on here that's obviously Laguna Seca. There's like a few popular courses like that, but obviously because they're a small independent developer, they can't use the actual names. But yeah, like I say, if you've got a spare £10 burning a hole in your pocket and you like a racing game, then definitely get this one. So let's move on to a game that I have played a lot. Well, when I say a lot, it's a game that's only 6 hours in length. But this is it's a game that came out of nowhere, which at the start of the month, I don't think any of us had even heard of. And this is Nobody Wants to Die, which is a Unreal Engine 5 powered cyberpunk detective story. It's played from a first-person perspective, but I think the gameplay and the way that it goes about telling its story has got more in line with the output of Telltale. So, even though you play it, even though it looks like it's going to be a first-person shooter, it's actually got more in common with the Walking Dead games, or probably the best comparison would be A Wolf Among Us.
Oh.
Because and I know the fact that it's first person will put you off from playing.
Yeah. No, first person only puts me off when you go through a character creator and then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, you can't see your character at all. I'm like, what? Sorry. What puts me off Nobody Wants to Die is the fact that it's mainly a puzzle game. Even if it's an interactive story. Is that right?
I think it looks like a puzzle game because it looks like you have to. It looks like you have to go around and solve the crime scenes to a certain degree, but the game holds your hand quite a lot in terms of what you can and can't interact with, when you can interact with them. So almost every time you've got something else to go and do, the game explicitly says, "Go here, do this."
Oh, okay. You mentioning the Telltale games, especially Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us, is there an element of choose your own path as such, even if the ending is ultimately the same? Is it like
I've not actually reached the ending yet. I think I'm very close to it.
Yeah.
But there have been quite a few occasions throughout where I've made a decision, and the game has, in the Telltale way, popped up in the left-hand corner saying such and such will remember that, or your decision will affect gameplay. So
okay.
So I think there is going to be some replayability to it in that sense as well.
Well, the fact that it's only a 6-hour game, just for one playthrough, is probably more to its benefit then.
And with it being an Unreal Engine 5 game, it does actually look really, really good as well. I mean, I'm playing it on the Xbox Series X. There haven't been any performance issues whatsoever in the whole time that I've played it, and I think that's because it's a slower paced game. This is not a game that has any combat in it whatsoever.
I thought it did have combat from the trailer.
I haven't encountered any yet.
Oh, maybe it's just a very minor bit at the end then.
I think the closest they've got is that somebody has fired a gun at me at one point.
Okay.
But that was only one bullet.
All right, so definitely a game you recommend then?
I do recommend it, yes. Is there any other game? So, what other games have you played this month? I know you played a lot of Let's School when it was in early access. Have you had a chance to check out the full release of that one?
I have, and this is actually it's because I have played it in early access. This is kind of making it like an unfair. It's going to make it sound like I don't like the full release, but that's not the case at all. It's just that from early access to the full release, there was barely any changes. Like, there wasn't a massive update. There wasn't like anything new to make people go, "Oh, yes, this was worth waiting for." It's just a case of they've gone through their roadmap as such as early access, finished the roadmap, but then didn't add anything extra for the full release. Like, they hadn't held anything back. There are a couple of minor changes, like placeholders for when a game is loading, and very small minor things that have changed, but nothing that affects gameplay. Now, as I said, it's making it sound like I don't like it. No, this is a really good simulation game where you build your own school, manage your own school. You got your different classes. You've got your different focuses between your art, English, science, and sports. It is a good game, but from early access to full release, it's like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. I mean, and one of the things that are kind of damning it is the fact that they had paid DLC before the full release for like different maps for you to base your school in, and it's like you didn't even put any new maps in for the full release, like even 1 or 2. No, just the standard 3 maps.
Is it still something that people should play though?
Yes, it is a good simulation game, and it's got that more cartoony element to it. Like,
I think
it's
it also
still
came
going.
out on. I think it also came out. It was full release on consoles as well. I mean, I know in early access it was only on the PC.
Yeah,
but I think it is now available on consoles as well.
Yeah.
As of the full release.
Yeah. With this, not that I have played the console version, because I, of course, did early access, so therefore played it on PC. In my head, this is the type of game that is best played on PC, because you can use your mouse to control what you're building a lot more easily than what you can do with a controller. But I've got no idea how good the controller version of the game is.
Another big game that I was looking forward to this month came out on the 25th. That was Earth Defense Force 6, which is available for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and I believe PC as well. The latest outlandish sci-fi shooter from Japanese developer Sandlot. I think they're Japanese. Basically, you just kill swarms of giant insects in deserted cities. It looks like a PS2 game, even though it's on PS5. It's got voice acting that would make the voice acting in the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1 look good. Yeah, I still love it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's Earth Defense Force.
It's your guilty pleasure game, isn't it? It's just something that you can go back to again and again, even though it, from all intents and purposes, it looks and sounds absolutely rubbish.
I mean, what's not to love about killing hundreds of giant ants in a single level in the space of 5 minutes, and then doing it all again with the different weaponry that you just picked up? There's a huge amount of weapons that you can use, as long as you remember to pick them up during the previous levels, and you can mess around with different loadouts. There's different types of characters that you get to be as you progress through the game. I mean, this is absolutely a game where you should look past the visuals and just enjoy the gameplay. Not sure it's worth £45 if I'm strictly being honest. But I have thoroughly enjoyed it.
Something to pick up in a sale, then. That's your recommend. Does that sound like a good recommendation, then?
Yeah.
Sale.
Now, Dungeons of Hinterberg. Did you play that one on Game Pass?
Yes, very briefly. I haven't got into the bulk of the game, so I essentially only did the first dungeon. So I don't know what the extra elements are. Mainly because Path of the Goddess has taken up a lot of my time and captured my interest more than Dungeons of Hinterberg. I do like the presentation of it. It's different. It goes for like that.
It's a very cell shaded style, isn't it?
Yes, and it's been a while since I've come across that for me personally. I know it's one of those things that don't go out of style, but it tends to get used for certain types of games. And so, which I don't tend to play, but so it's nice to see it in this type of thing. It's a bit of a dungeon crawler, and it's just a case of you have arrived at this village and they have this thing where they've got dungeon gates that open up and you go into the dungeons and clear them, and then that's as far as I got, so I don't know what other elements of it are. I definitely enjoyed what I did play of it, and I think it is worth more of my time, but I haven't just gotten round to it because of Path of the Goddess.
I think I've played it a little bit more than you then, because I've completed 3 dungeons, I think.
Then yeah, you have done more than me.
And what I actually quite liked is that each of the 3 dungeons that I've encountered has been completely different to the last one.
Mm.
So you're not doing the same thing over and over again. The first dungeon was very combat focused, if I remember rightly. Because you've got a giant creature and all these little tentacles sticking up out of the ground that you've got to get rid of.
Yeah, that's the one that I did. So yes,
that was the
definitely
first dungeon. And then the second dungeon, and this is probably going to put you off, is much more puzzle related, where you have to get into little mine carts on rail tracks and divert and work out how to divert the minecart to different destinations.
Yeah.
And there's not as much combat in it. So if it can keep that up for the game's duration of having different styles of dungeons throughout, I think it's got a lot of potential. But like you, I've not really been able to play it that much. So I think that's all the games that we need to talk in depth about for this month. Let's just quickly go through the rest of the games. I mean, there are 6 games that we didn't get a chance to play at all or enough this month. And those ones would be Flock, which came out on Game Pass. There was Hot Lap Racing, which came out on the Switch, which I really wanted to play. I'm actually quite disappointed that I didn't get to play that one. That's like a Forza Motorsport type game, but for the Switch. There was Flintlock, Siege of Dawn, Skim, College Football 25, and Conscript that we also didn't play. So let's have a quick roundup of the ones that we did. There was the Parkitect Deluxe Edition that came out on the console. I know you played that one.
Yeah, and I've also done a video of it, so my opinion can be found on the channel.
Ah, yes, forgot about that. Yes, yes, we do have a full video of that one. I'll make sure I stick a link to that one either on screen right now or in the video description if you're watching it as a podcast. If you're actually listening to it as a podcast. There was Zenless Zone Zero, which is the latest game from the makers of Genshin Impact. I played this one for about an hour, maybe 2. It's very slick. It's got a really nice combat system, but I didn't really feel the need to play it for any longer than I did. I think it's because I know that it's a free-to-play game and is therefore probably going to try and start to fleece money out of me. That's probably why I stopped. That's probably why I stopped playing it, because of the type of game that it is. There was Hidden Cats of Rome, of course.
Woohoo! Completed.
I know both you and Pad played this one and enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, this one.
Is it any different to any of the other dozens of Hidden Cats games that are out there?
There is a difference to it in the final level. it just goes a bit different because as people who have played any of the games are aware, you have a section where you have to find certain humans or special humans. On the very final level, not only do you have to find 100 cats, you have to find 100 special humans in it, and it's just what. Unlike the cats, you have to do the humans in a certain order. Like when they tell you which ones you have to find next, so it's very tough. And I'm glad there was only one level of it, but it was a nice change.
We've also had the re-release of Parasol Stars, which is basically the third game in the Bubble Bobble series. We were provided with a key of this one by the publisher, so big thank you to them for that. Parasol Stars is still a great game, even if it is, in my opinion, the worst of the three Bubble Bobble games. Rainbow Islands and the original game are still superior to this one, but I do still really like this one. If you're interested, there will also be a full video of this one either going up on the channel tomorrow or the day after that, but it will definitely be available this week. There'll be like a little 15-minute gameplay video of that one going up if you want to watch that one. Very enjoyable and definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of arcade platform games. There was also a really nice action RPG game called Arranger that came out on PlayStation and Switch. I think I've played this one for about 4 hours now. The graphics on it are by the same person who did the graphics on Braid. It's got a very and so just by saying that, if you've played Braid, you should know exactly what this game looks like. But basically, the character that you play as in it can only move in a way that moves the line of the world that she's standing on as well. If you get what that means. So
you can only move horizontal or vertical from the screen perspective.
Yeah. Basically makes the entire game one giant block pushing puzzle, as well as being a Zelda-like RPG at the same time. It's a really original idea. It's really nicely presented. I don't think there's anything bad about the game that I've experienced so far. As indie games go, it's definitely one worth checking out, as far as I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final game for us to mention this month is probably the Nintendo World Championships NES edition, which came out on the 18th for the Nintendo Switch. Basically, it's Nintendo once again finding a way of using their old NES games for entertaining purposes in the modern era, in the same way that they did with what were they called? The games that NES remix games that came out a couple of years ago. Basically, chopped down the NES games into little segments. This Championship Edition basically gives you little 10-second challenges from the likes of Super Mario Brothers and Zelda and the original Metroid. Excite Bike is in there. It's great for Nintendo fans, but I found it to be a little bit limited, to be honest. I mean, if you're the type of person who is going to repeat a challenge over and over again just to try and shave 1,000th of a second off the time that it took you, then this is definitely a game that you should check out. But I think for Nintendo completionists and collectors, it's worth getting the physical copy. But it's not a game that I can't imagine it's going to be a game that I'm going to come back to. I'm going to come back and play in a year's time. Shall I put it that way? That's all of our games for July. I think the ones that we recommend would be Kunitsu-Gami, Nobody Wants to Die, Super Woden GP. What else was there?
Hidden Cats in Rome.
Yes, Hidden Cats in Rome, and if you're of a certain disposition, Earth Defense Force. So thank you thank you for listening or watching, whichever you have done. We will be back on the first Monday of September, and hopefully Pad will be joining us again for that one. We shall see. Discussing the games of August, which will include the console release of Valorant. There's World of Goo 2 is coming out. Star Wars Outlaws should be out. So there are a few games for us to talk about. Oh, and of course Concord. Let's not forget about that one. We shall see whether or not I manage to get hold of a rental copy of that one. So hopefully you will come back and join us for that one. So see you on the first Monday of September. Until next time, happy retro gaming, everybody. Thank you for joining me, Teru.
No problem.
And bye, everybody, for now.
Bye.